to Breakthrough for Business Success, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs build, grow, and scale successful businesses while creating lives of purpose, freedom, and impact. I'm your host, Davida Shinsky, entrepreneur, speaker, coach, and founder of Career Performance Institute. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, mindset shifts, and proven success principles that help entrepreneurs overcome obstacles, seize opportunities, and achieve meaningful results. Whether you're launching your first business, growing your brand, increasing your income, or scaling the next level, that you'll find practical insights, actionable solutions that you can implement immediately. Through expert interviews, success stories, business strategies, marketing tips, leadership lessons, and personal development insights, you'll gain the knowledge and confidence needed to move forward with clarity and purpose. Success doesn't happen by chance. It happens when vision meets action, persistence meets opportunity, and challenges become stepping stones to growth. So get ready to think bigger, take smarter action, and create the business and life that you deserve. So welcome to Breakthrough for Business Success, helping entrepreneurs build, grow, and scale. Now, today we're talking about how the ADA influences the entrepreneurs in society today. So I'd like to first talk about why this conversation matters. Today we're talking about something that has transformed millions of lives while still leaving tremendous opportunity ahead. We're discussing how the Americans with Disabilities Act, better known as the ADA, has helped open doors for people with disabilities to pursue entrepreneurship, financial independence, and leadership. For many people, the ADA is associated with wheelchair ramps, accessible parking, or elevators. While those accommodations are important, the ADA represents something much bigger. It represents opportunity. It represents inclusion. It represents the belief that disability should never determine someone's potential. As someone who lived with a disability and built my own business after facing employment barriers, I know firsthand that entrepreneurship isn't simply another career path. For many people with disabilities, it's the path to independence. It's the opportunity to create work around abilities rather than forcing yourself into systems that were never designed for you. Today's episode is about understanding your rights, recognizing your opportunities, and discovering the many resources available to help you succeed. And the first thing I want to talk about before I actually get into this is that many years ago, when I went through rehabilitation services and because I was in school and my father had passed away and we were on Social Security, they paid for my education to begin with. But there were a lot of things going on in the home that was affecting my grades because it was a very toxic environment around my mother. And all she ever did was tell me how I was going to fail. And cerebral palsy affects how the brain processes information. And sometimes what I see and I write down become two different things. And because of that, my grades never truly showed what I was truly capable of. And you also have to remember this, that we all learn differently. Some people learn by hearing, some people learn by seeing, and some people actually learn by not by taking it in, but actually taking the information and applying it. And that's how I learned. And because of that, my grades never truly showed what I was capable of. But what happened was that in society, your grades are how people look at you and see you. And that shouldn't always be true. And when you have a disability that's very obvious, it makes it a double whammy when it comes to how people treat you. Now, before the ADA, prior to 1990, millions of Americans with disabilities faced discrimination every day. Buildings were inaccessible. Employers often refused to hire qualified individuals. Transportation was limited. Educational opportunities were restricted. And that's very, very true. Many talented individuals never had the opportunity to contribute their skills because society created barriers that had nothing to do with their abilities. And this is why we have the ADA today. So, while the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 began addressing the discrimination within the federally funded programs, it wasn't enough. The ADA expanded civil rights protections across public life. That legislation changed expectation across America. And I actually remember when all of this was going on. And the one clause that they passed that made the difference between the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Americans with Disabilities Act is that clause that allowed people who could prove that they were being discriminated against could bring lawsuits under the EEOC and the Department of Justice. So how the ADA helped entrepreneurs. Many people don't realize the ADA supports entrepreneurship in several important ways. Accessible public spaces make it easier to meet clients, attend networking events, and participate in conferences. Technology has become increasingly accessible through screen readers, captioning, voice recognition software, adaptive keyboards, and AI-powered tools. Government agencies and business organizations are required to provide equal access to many of their services. The ADA also influences business culture by encouraging inclusion and accessibility. This means entrepreneurs with disabilities have more opportunities than ever before to build successful companies. This is one thing that I have learned, and just how the technology helped me. That when I started my business, everything was done offline, and that meant it was much more difficult because when you were offline, if you were starting a business and you had to have a physical location, you needed $250,000 just to in the bank just to get started. And I remember talking to someone that I walked into her store, and she just had a little boutique, and she said that she told a friend of hers at that time that she really needed $500,000 in the bank to actually get her foot. Because think about it, when you're opening up the front door, you have to put money into the building, you have to put it into training, you have to put it into getting all your lights and your utilities set up first. Then you got to buy your product, and and then you have to advertise your business. Whereas when you're online, it's much easier. And let's put it this way. For me, what happened was this. I actually had a background in mental health and psychology and wanted to do group therapy, but did not have that master's degree in psychology or the PhD. So it was very difficult for me. But I knew also that where I excelled was when I would give book reports in the classroom and would stand in front of the room and talk. And so looked at going into professional speaking, where you had to have that media kit. And to get that media kit, you had to have a package. You had to have a one sheet, you had to have a video, you had to have the tools. Not only that, you had to have a book. And today, your podcast or your mic is your book. And actually understanding where all this comes from and why and how it influenced that. I was working as a consultant, external consultant, going into companies representing what I want to say, Personal Dynamics Institute, and what's now Wiley Publishing, which at one time was Inscape Publishing, which at another time was originally Performax, and John Geyer and Associates, which were the assessment profiles. And I would go do the trainer sessions. But my biggest problem was having the ability to get around and connect with these people, because I didn't have transportation, and mobility became a real issue. But once I was able to move online, it made it far easier for me. And I was an early podcaster when the industry was in its infancy, because I was looking for a way to be able to put together something that was my media kit. And my podcast became my media kit. And so now we're going to talk about how entrepreneur creates independence. But before I get into that, what I want to say is when I moved online, what I was taking and doing exactly what I was doing offline, but I started blogging, I started creating the courses myself, and when AI came into existence and when it started being used, I was able to apply it to building out my courses, to make them far better, to build into my courses an action plan and homework. And the technology has allowed me to be able to promote it as well. Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship and how it creates independence, because that's another big thing that we need to be aware of. Traditional employment isn't always the right fit. Many individuals experience hiring discrimination. When I lost my job with the state, and it was still before the ADA, I could not find gainful employment. So I didn't have the opportunity to build up some financial security so that I would have the money to put into my business. I had to figure out ways to build a business on a very small and limited budget. Building a business online, you don't need that big financial windfall to get started. You just need enough to get a website up, to do some promotion, to get the domain name, to actually know exactly what it is that you're looking for. Now, many individuals experience hiring discrimination. Others require flexible schedules due to medical appointments. Some need adaptive workspaces. Entrepreneurship allows you to build a business around your strengths. You choose your schedule. You choose your clients. You determine your work environment. Technology has made this even more possible through online businesses, coaching, consulting, podcasting, speaking, e-commerce, and digital services. Your disability does not eliminate your ability to create value. And that is where it all lays and stays and helps you understand exactly how you can turn around and be as competitive as anyone else. Now, let's talk about the resources that are available for entrepreneurs. One of the biggest mistakes aspiring entrepreneurs make is believing that they have to figure everything out alone. There are numerous resources available, vocational rehabilitation programs. But here's the kicker with rehabilitation services. They are there that you need a business license, and they can get you your first computer and put on it the software. And as you build your business and build your services, then all you have to do is reinvest in your business and in your services. But they can help you. But their main focus, more or less, is to make sure that you get the education to have the tools to be able to do the things you need to do. Then you have the SBA, or the Small Business Administration resources. You have SCORE mentors. And SCORE mentors are people who have worked in the corporate world and can work with you to teach you what it is to be a manager and manage a business. The SBDCs, the Centers for Independent Living, disability-focused nonprofits, grant opportunities, networking organizations, professional coaching, and business education. The key is knowing where to begin. That's exactly why I encourage you to visit the disabilityrightsadvocate.com website. And this is my website, and this is something that I put together because back in the 90s, I saw a hole that needed to be fit because schools don't teach you how to become entrepreneurs. And especially people with disabilities are going to have more of a struggle to understand how to build a business. So the purpose of it, when I looked at starting it, was to offer courses on entrepreneurship and resources on tools that you can use in your business, and also some financial backing when needed. And the idea being that if once you became successful in your business, to also give back to someone else in need and helping them and mentoring them to become a entrepreneur. So this website is designed to educate, inspire, and connect individuals with disabilities to resources that promote entrepreneurship, independence, and self-advocacy, and long-term success. Whether you're just beginning your journey or looking to grow your business, you'll find valuable tools to help you move forward. My personal journey. I understand the challenges because I've lived them. Growing up with a disability wasn't easy. There were obstacles, closed doors, and moments where others underestimated what I could accomplish. Like many people with disabilities, I discovered that traditional employment wasn't always willing to recognize my potential. Instead of allowing rejection to define me, I chose another path. I became an entrepreneur. That decision eventually led me to become a professional speaker, a podcaster, a coach, and the founder of Career Performance Institute. Career Performance Institute is my for-profit business, whereas I envisioned the disability rights advocate, or as I was thinking of calling it, the entrepreneur, international entrepreneur, wait a minute, yeah, International Disabled Entrepreneurs, Inc., being the nonprofit or the foundation that would serve people with disabilities who wanted to become entrepreneurs, because there really was, at that time in the late 90s, the mid to late 90s, there was no place to go. And even though you have school, and I remember going to them, they didn't quite understand exactly what my needs were at the time. Now things have changed, but still, if it helps to have an agency that really can serve your specific needs. So that's why I set this up, and I've learned that your greatest challenges often become your qualifications. And this is why my story matters, and your story matters as well. Your experience matters. Someone is waiting to hear how you overcame what they are facing today, and recognizing some of the things that you've been through. Now, what is your next step? If you've been thinking about starting a business, take the first step. If you've already started, keep growing. If you've experienced setbacks, don't quit. Every successful entrepreneur has faced obstacles. The difference is persistence. The ADA opens many doors. Now it's your responsibility to walk through them, build your business, create jobs, serve communities, become leaders, change lives. Remember, disability is one part of who you are. It is not the limit to what you can become. I encourage you today to visit the disabilityrightsadvocate.com, where you'll find resources, educational content, and inspiration designed to help entrepreneurs with disabilities build a brighter future. Together, we can create a more inclusive economy where talent, not disability, defines opportunity. And before I go to the finish, what I want to say is this, that we are coming up on the 36th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And even though we've come a long way, we still have much, much more to do before people with disabilities are truly integrated into society. It took a long time. The Individual Disability Education Act was passed in the late 70s and actually took effect in 1980. And after 10 years, they finally got around to passing the Americans with Disabilities Act, because they found so many people with disabilities were being educated that couldn't find gainful employment. And I remember working with agencies that would offer job fairs for people with disabilities, and many people with disabilities would attend them and pass out their resumes with the hopes of getting gainful employment. And yet, many of these people that came to the job fairs were there because they were part of or they got money from the government, but it didn't mean they were truly, really in the position or had an idea of wanting to hire people with disabilities. So even though many people would go to these job fairs, very few actually got jobs at that time. Recognizing this also helps us understand why the ADA had to come into existence and why we have to make sure that as people with disabilities, we take advantage of all of the laws, because I can tell you from her firsthand experience what it's like not to have the law, not to have the opportunity to get out there and work and be a part of society, and all of the things that that entails. So thank you for joining me on Breakthrough to Business Success. I hope today's episode provided valuable insights, practical strategies, and inspiration to help you move one step closer to your goals. Remember, every successful business begins with decisions to take action and stay committed on the journey. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with fellow entrepreneurs who are ready to build, grow, and scale your business. For additional resources, training programs, coaching opportunities, and tools to help you accelerate your success, and to discover resources specifically for entrepreneurs or disabilities. So visit Career Performance Institute and disabilitiesrightsadvocate.com. Now, my main website for Career Performance Institute is coachdavidashinsky.com. And I have another website that is called davidashinsky.com, but it's basically set up as a Q&A website to answer questions and to provide information for. So all of my websites are really interconnected with each other, and it's the ability to make you become aware of how you can have the right mindset, because believing in yourself, and some of the things that we forget is we have that negative attitude because along the way society has told us that we shouldn't. If you remember back before the ADA, when you would have people like Jerry Lewis in the telethon, who it was, these poor helpless people, they can't take care of themselves, they can't do anything, and we got to take care of them. But after the ADA, when they started, it was more of the ambassadors and focusing on the things that people could do. And often that society tended to alienate people with disabilities and push them aside and not allow them to be integrated. So the change happened because people with disabilities, and really when you look at the laws that came about, and now they're talking about the DIY effect, but that is in place because discrimination is still there. It will always be there because people fear something they don't understand. And understanding that fear is what keeps you from reaching your goals and living the kind of life you were meant to have. So until next time, keep believing in your vision, keep taking action, and keep moving forward. I'm Davida Shinsky, and this has been Breakthrough to Business Success, where vision meets action and success